want, I do need some foot space, though.
Able to do it as quick, you know, and I know there's people that will shout out the correction before I get it, so,
Well, see, some of it is just people keep pointing.
yeah. Well, yeah, it depends on who the reader is, things,
All right.
and that's fine for you, but
Well,
if somebody really needs help, I feel like I'm not the right person. Shalom. Hi, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Steve.
Wendy?
Huh. We got papers. The papers for you guys. So all week I was looking for this receipt. I had to take something back to Pavilions.
Uh-huh.
Couldn't find the receipt, couldn't find the receipt. Yesterday I opened two coons and
Good.
you know, this is a little off center too. You see,
Yeah. Is the outlet the center?
I think the outlet's the center, so you can go
So it
that
just
way and
goes,
maybe
yeah.
even forward.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, a little bit this way, forward.
So I had been texting in the morning, but I don't really want to be responsible for it. Should we just assume it's going until we hear otherwise?
What's that? I didn't hear that.
Last couple of times I checked to see if it was live streaming,
Oh, right, oh.
but I really don't want to make that line.
Yeah. I'll just see if everything is plugged in.
And how do we know if it's working?
You really need like studio cameras to have a little light on. It looks like it looks like everything is connected. So
Okay, hold on. I assume that it's, so we're good to go. That on? That's on.
Barbara left her boxer here.
Who did?
Barbara.
Oh.
And I think that is Tiffany's sweater.
This is the lumpy floor over here. Where they, so don't trip.
What's that? Did you bet?
Right here.
Oh, yeah.
This is my lump. Elohai neshama shenata tabi tehora tehorahi Elohai neshama shenata tabi tehora tehorahi. My God, the soul that you have given me is pure. You created it, you formed it, you breathed it into me. You watch over it when it is in me. In the future, you will take it from me, but then restore it to me in the world that is coming. As long as this soul is within me, I thank you, Adonai, my God, God of my ancestors, ruler of all creation, master of all souls, Baruch atah Adonai, who restores the soul to the lifeless form. Elohai nishama shenatata bi tehora tehorahi. Please join me on page 103. We are standing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sekli vina lechavin ben yom uven laila. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani b'tzalmo she'asani bat chorin. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asani Yisrael pokeach ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish harumim matir asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sokev kifufim rokaretz al hamayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamechin mitzadei gaver she'asani likol tzorki. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'gvura. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam oter Yisrael b'tipara. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hanoten layev koach lai 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 lai. Baruch atah Adonai. Bottom of 104 at the triangle. Unenu haimo yomu v'chol yom lechenu lechesed l'rachamim b'einecha v'einu choroenu v'tigmalenu chasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai gomel chasadim tovim li'amo Yisrael. We continue silently until the top of 106. At the triangle at the top of 106. Ashreinu matov chelkenu manaim goralenu uma yafa yerushatenu. Ashreinu shenachnu mashkimim umarivim erev avoker ve'omrim pa'amayim b'chol yom Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad. Kadesh et Shimcha Makdishei Shemecha V'Kadesh et Shimcha Ba'olamecha U'Vishataka Atarim V'Tagbia Karnenu Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh et Shimcha Barabim. We turn to page 112. 112. Hayom Yom Shabbat Kodesh Shabu Hayu Halvim Omim B'Veit HaMikdash Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat Tolel Hodolananai Lezamer L'Shimcha L'Yom. Tzadikatama yifrach keres bavanon yizke shetulim bevet Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun b'seva Tishenim v'rananim yihyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri v'lo avlatabo. Please join me on page 113 for Psalm 27, in the English at first. Adonai is my light, please join me, and my help. Whom shall I fear? Adonai is the stronghold of my life. Whom shall I dread? When evil people assail me to devour my flesh, my enemies and those who besiege me, it is they who stumble and fall. Should an armed camp be arrayed against me, my heart would show no fear. If they were to go against me, of this I would be sure. In the bold in the Hebrew. Achat shalti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. Achat shalti me'et Adonai ota avakesh. Shivti b'veit Adonai kol yemei chayai lachazot b'noam b'noam Adonai ulevaker b'hechalo lachazot b'noam b'noam Adonai ulevaker b'hechalo. Lulehem anti lirot b'tuv Adonai be'eretz chayim kavei al Adonai chazak v'yamet libecha v'kavei el Adonai. Please join me on page 120. 120. Mizmor shir v'chanakan habayit l'David. This font's getting smaller and smaller. Aromi v'chadonai kintilatan. 8 lines up from the bottom. Elecha Adonai ekra v'yel Adonai etpanan. Elecha Adonai ekra v'yel Adonai etpanan. Shema Adonai v'choneni Adonai chayeh ozerli. Shema Adonai v'choneni Adonai chayeh ozerli. Hafakta mispedi lemacholi pitachta sakiva tazrenu simcha leman yizarmecha chavod v'lo yidom Adonai Elohai liolam odecha. Page 122, I invite you to stand for Baruch She'amar. Thank you, Rabbi. Yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai 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 dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai, yai dai dai. Baruch Omer Ve'oseh, Baruch Ozer U'Mekayim, Baruch Merachem al haaretz, Baruch Merachem al habriyot, Baruch Mishalem Sachar Tov Lereah, Baruch Adonai Lekayam Lanetzach, Baruch Omer Matzir, Baruch Shemo. Yadadai, 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yachid Chei Halami Melech Meshubach U'Faradei Ad Shemo Hagadol, Baruch atah Adonai Melech Mehulal Batishbachot. You may be seated. We're on page 136. Shabbat Shalom. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, O Jechalelucha, O Jechalelucha, Selah. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha, O Jechalelucha, O Jechalelucha, Selah. Tehillat Adonai Yidaber Pi, Vivarech Kol Basar, Shem Kocho Leolam Vaed, V'anachnu Nevarech Ya Me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Page 141, you want to get your instruments ready. You'll need a shofar, a harp, a lyre, timbrel, flute, strings, and don't forget your cymbals. Hallelujah, 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 El Bekocho, hallelujah, hallelujah, Berki Auzo, hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Leolam, Amen v'Amen. Baruch Adonai Mitzion Shochen Yerushalayim, Hallelujah. Baruch Adonai Elohim, Elohei Yisrael, Lo Seniflo Levado, Uvaruch Shem Kivodo Leolam v'Yimalei Chivodo, et Kol Haaretz, Amen v'Amen. You may be seated on this auspicious Shabbat of Shabbat Shuvah and 9/11. We continue on page 145. Nishmat kol chai tivarech et shimcha Adonai Eloheinu v'ruach kol basar tifaeru tromem zikrecha malkeinu tamid min haolam v'ad haolam ata el umi baladecha ein lanu melech koel Moshiach Adam. Continue on your own, please. Please join me in the English on the left-hand side of page 145. Where our mouths filled with song is the sea, our tongues to sing endlessly like countless waves, our lips to offer limitless praise like the sky, our eyes to shine like the sun and the moon, our arms to spread heavenward like eagle's wings, and our feet swift as deer, we would still be unable to fully express our gratitude to you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, or to praise your name for even one of the myriad moments of kindness with which you have blessed our ancestors and us. 146. Mimitzrayim Giletan. Nechalelcha unshabechacha unfa'erecha unvarech et shem kodshecha kamur leDavid barchi nafshi et Adonai b'chol kravai et shem kodsho Ha'el b'tatzumot uzecha, hagadol b'kvod shemecha, hagibor l'netzach v'hanora b'noratecha, ha'melech ha'yoshev al kisei ram b'nisa. Shabbat Shalom, and to those viewing from home. Yeah.
Wendy? So we have this ringing here. You hear this ringing?
It goes with the story.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, but I even pushed it back and.
Okay. Testing, testing. This is not on. Testing. Testing. Let's see here. Huh. Okay. Well, it doesn't look, it's, nothing's, is this on now? No? No. Another thing to add to the list.
So all of a sudden got very, we weren't having this problem earlier. Okay. Hello, Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We're going to continue our service on page 147. Yair
Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Vechatu Ranenu Tzadikim Madonai Layesharim Nava Nava Tehillah Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Befi Sharim Titala Titala Ulivrei Tzadikim Titbarach Titbarach Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Uvilshon Tzadikim Titkadash Titkadash Uvekerev Kedoshim Titromam Titromam Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Umakalot Revivo Amcha Beit Yisrael Merina Yitbar Shimcha Malkeinu Bechol Dor Vador Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Shochenar Marom Vekadosh Shemo Shekin Chovat Kol Yitzurim Lefanecha Adonai Eloheinu Velohei Avoteinu Lehodo lehalel leshabeach lefaer leromem nahadel levarech lalel kales o kol divrei shiro betishbachot David ben Yishai avdecha meshichecha. Please stand. We're on 148. Yishtabach shimcha le'ad malkeinu ha'el ha'melech hagadol v'kadosh b'shamayim u'ba'aretz ki lecha na'eh Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avotenu. Yai lai la lai yai la 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 lai yai lai la lai yai lai 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 yai lai la la lai yai lai la 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 lai yai lai la lai yai lai 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 la 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 ya la 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 la. All our praise we sing unto you. Shir u'shvacha halev vezimra ozu memshala netzach gedula ugevura tehila v'tiferet kedusha u'malchut merachot ve'odaot me'ata ve'ad olam. All our praise we sing unto you. Berachot ve'odaot me'ata ve'ad olam. All our praise we sing unto you. Let's go. Yai, yai, ya, la, la. Yai, ya, la, 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 la. Yai, la, ya, la, la. Yai, la, la, la. Yai, yai, ya, la, la. Yai, ya, la, 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 la. Yai, la, ya, la, la. Yai, la, la, la. Berachot ve'odaot me'ata ve'ad olam. All our praise we sing unto you. Berachot ve'odaot me'ata ve'ad olam. All our praise we sing unto you. Baruch atah Adonai, el melachato betishbachot, el haodaot Adon haniflaot, habocher bishrei zimra, melech elchei haolamim. Rabbi Joe, you see anybody coming down the hall? Okay. Please be seated. We're on page 150. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yananai, nananai, nananai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yananai, nananai, nananai. Yotzer or uvorech oshech oseh shalom uvorech et hakol. Yotzer or uvorech oshech oseh shalom uvorech et hakol. Yotzer or uvorech oshech oseh shalom uvorech et hakol. Hakol yodu chavakol shebachul chavakol hayim. In kirkecha ve'in zulatecha, efes piltecha umido melach. In kirkecha Adonai Eloheinu ba'olam hazeh, ve'in zulatecha malkeinu lechaye ha'olam haba. Efes piltecha go'aleinu limot hamashiach, ve'in domeh lecha moshienu litchiyat hametim. 151. El Adon, O kol hamasim, Baruch umvorach, befi kol neshama, ein, 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 galo v'tuvo, malei olam, da'at u'tvuna, sovevim לפני כבודו, טובים מאורות שברא אלוהינו, יצרם בדעת, בבינה ובהשכל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, פלים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נאה זיום לכל העולם, שמחים וצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים בהמה רצון קונם, פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמור, צהלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו, קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, ראה והתקין צורת הבנה, שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ואופנים וחיות הקודש, יין עין 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 עין, let's go, ין עין 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 עין, ין עין 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 עין, ין עין 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 עין, ין עין 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 עין, ין עין 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 עין, ין עין 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 עין, ין עין 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 עין, ין לי 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 לי. 152. לאל אשר שבת מכל המעשים ביום השביעי התעלה וישב על כיסא כבודו, תפארת אתה ליום המנוחה, עונג קרא ליום השבת. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודו לאדוני, לפיכך קראו. תתברך מושיענו על שבעת מעשי ידיך, ועל מאורי אור שעשית יפרוך סלה. 153. תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו, בורא קדושים. כולם אהובים, כולם ברורים, כולם גיבורים וכולם עושים באימה וביראה רצון קונם, וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים ופרים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור והנורא קדוש הוא, וכולם מקבלים עליהם ומלכות שמיים זה מזה, ונותנים רשות זה לזה להקדיש לא תרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ורבי נימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. ואופנים וחיות הקודש ברש גדול מן עצים לעומת צרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו, לאל ברוך ימותיתנו למלך החיים. היי 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 Yananai, yananai, yananai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yananai, nananai, nananai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yananai, nananai, nananai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yananai, nananai, nananai. Or chadash al Zion tahir v'nizkechu lanu mehera leoro. Or chadash al Zion tahir v'nizkechu lanu mehera leoro. Baruch atah Adonai Yotzer HaMeorot. 154. Ahava Rabba Avtanu Adonai Eloheinu Chemla Gedula V'teracham alta aleinu Avinu Malkeinu Bavur Avotenu Shebatchu Vecha V'telamdim Chukei Chaim Yenai nai 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 Yenai nai 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 Yenai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Yenai nai 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 Yenai nai 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 Yenai nai 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 yai nai 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 yai nai la 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 Kein techalenu tlamtenu Avinu havarachaman Hamrachem rachem aleinu V'tein b'libeinu Lehavin ulhaskil Lishmoa lilmod Ulilamed Lishmor velasod Yanai nai 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 Yanai nai 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 Yanai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Ulekayem et kol tivrei Talmud Toratecha Talmud Toratecha Be'ahava Yanai nai 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 Yanai nai 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 Yanai nai 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 Yai nai 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 Try this Yanai nai 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 Yanai nai 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 Yanai nai 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 Yai nai 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 V'ha'erenenu b'toratecha v'dabek lebeinu b'mitzvotecha v'yachel levaveinu le'ahava u'yira et shemecha ve'lo nemosh le'olam va'ed ve'lo menorah batachnu, nagila v'nismecha, nagila v'nismecha b'shuatecha. V'avienu l'shalom me'arba kanfot ha'aretz, v'tolechenu k'mayol artzenu, ki el poel yeshuot ata. Uvanu v'charta mikol am v'lashon, v'keravtanu l'shimcha hagdol sela be'emet, lehodot lecha u'yachercha ve'ahava. We'll just take a moment. Take a deep breath. Just for a moment, just notice your body in space, the energy from the melody. The place where the inhale enters the nostrils or the mouth. Feel the way the body expands to make room for the inhale. And follow the air out as the body contracts on the exhale. One very simple aspect of teshuvah, of return, is to just bring our attention back to what's most basic. Breath, life force. As you pay attention to that movement of breath in and out, you can also imagine all of your internal organs working perfectly, every cell with infinite intelligence, knowing exactly what it needs to do. All of the sensation that you experience, your bottom on the cushion, your feet on the floor, the air on your face, the contact of your hands on wherever your hands are resting. All of the experience of those sensations, nerve, electricity, information coming to the brain, cells working together to deliver it, all of it filled with a majesty of presence. See if you can cultivate even a certain kind of awe for your very own life force, for the brilliance of the way the divine presence expresses itself inside you. And let your attention expand to include the world outside of you, starting with the space in the room that we're in, the other beings you may share the space with, and of course all the trees and activity and life that extends beyond the space, all the way into the furthest reaches of outer space, everything being filled with a motion, alive energy expressing itself, divine presence. When we open to the Shema, we are invited to experience everything in this moment as an expression of the Echad, of the One. So that with every breath of the prayer, any sense of a boundary between the divine inside and the divine outside becomes more transparent. So that there is only one. It's not even me having this experience, it is just the one. There's a willingness to die, to let go of a sense of separate, of a sense of control, to trust that
We are held by an infinite loving net as we let ourselves fall off into the unknown. Baruch atah Adonai, habocher b'amo Yisrael be'ahava. Shema Israel Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha. Continue silently on page 156. The words of the Shema, or just the prayers of your own heart in silence. Adonai Elohechem emet v'yatziv nachon v'chayam v'yashar v'ne'emon emet Elohai olam malkeinu tzur Yaakov magen yishenu ledor v'ador hu kayam u'shmo kayam v'chiso nachon u'malchuto v'emunato la'ad kayamet u'dvarav chayim v'kayamim ne'emanim v'nechmadim la'ad olamim. Truly you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors, our sovereign and our ancestors' sovereign, our Redeemer and our ancestors' Redeemer. You are our Creator and the rock of our deliverance, our Redeemer and our help. So you are known throughout time. Ein Elohim zulatecha, Ezrat avotenu atahu me'olam. Emet atahu rishon ve'atahu acharon, ubiladecha en lanu melech oel Moshiach, mimitzrayim galtanu Adonai Eloheinu mibeit avadim petitanu. We're on page 158. Yai na nai nai nai, yai na nai nai nai, yai nai yai nai nai, yai nai nai nai, yai nai yai nai nai nai, yai nai nai nai, yai nai 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 nai, yai nai nai nai, yai nai 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 nai. Ya la 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 nai nai, I nai 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 nai, I nai nai nai, I nai 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 nai, ya la 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 la, I nai la la la, ya nai nai nai, Tehillah le'el elyon, Baruch hu mevorach, Moshe Miriam uvnei Yisrael, lecha anu shira besimcha rabba, ve'ameru chulam, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha Nedar b'kodesh nora, nora tehilot oseh feleh, shira chadasha shibchu geulim le'shimcha al tzfat hayam. Yachad kulam hodu ve'imlechu ve'yameru Adonai, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed Adonai, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, yai nai 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 nai, yan na 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 nai nai nai, yai nai 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 nai, ai nai nai nai, yai nai 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 nai, yan na 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 nai nai nai, ai nai 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 nai, yai nai nai nai. In a moment, we'll finish the the bracha and then go into our Amidah together, the first three blessings together, and then have some time for silent prayer. And this Shabbat, we have a number of things converging, right? We have this ending of the book of Deuteronomy, Parshat Vayelech, where we have a little bit of narrative in Deuteronomy, which is Moshe's getting ready to die, and he's starting to turn this over to Joshua. And it's a really big moment to say, this is the end of my service, and I'm going to let go into that mystery. And then it's also Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat of Teshuvah, the Shabbat before Yom Kippur, where in the same kind of way, the high priest, in going into the Holy of Holies, he didn't know if he was going to come out, right? Some of us are familiar with it. He has a rope around his ankle, because it's so intense. The presence of God is so intense that if he's not absolutely pure and intention, then he could just merge into the one. He's in that place of letting go. So the invitation for this morning in our silent prayer is to really take to heart that all transformation requires a certain kind of death, right? In order to really change, we have to be willing to let go of the old. We have to be willing to let go of who we've been, how we've done things, and to be open to taking on something, something as the prophets says, a new heart and a new spirit. And sometimes that can only happen when we're like Moses, like the high priest, willing to say, I'm ready to let go of this part of the journey and let the next part emerge. So consider what it's like in our own prayer to let go of this year. Please stand. We're on the bottom of 158. Sur Yisrael, Kuma ve'ezrat Yisrael, Uvtechenu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go aleinu, Adonai tzevaot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avoteinu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor, V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot, U'Mevi Goel Lifnei V'neihem, Le'man Shemo B'Yahava. Zochreinu Lechaim, Melech Hafetz V'Chaim, V'kotvenu b'sefer ha'chaim, Lemancha Elohim chaim, Melech Ozer Ufoked U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ufoked Sarah, Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechaye Meitim Atah Rav Lehoshia, Morit Hatah, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye Meitim Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofek Holim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishanei Afar, Micha Mocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Micha Mocha Av Harachamim, Zocher Yitzurav Lechaim Verachamim, V'ne'emanata lechayot meitim, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hametim. Nekadesh et shimcha ba'olam, Geshem shmakdishi moto b'shmei marom, Kakatuv al yad nevi'echa, V'kara zeh el zeh v'yamar. Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, Melo kol haaretz kevodo. Az bekol rash gadol, Adir v'chazak mashmi'im kol, Mitnasim lumat rafim, Lumatam baruch yomeru. Baruch kevod Adonai mimkomo, mimkomcha malkeinu tofia, v'timloch aleinu ki mechakim anachnu lach. Matai timloch betzion, v'karo b'yameinu, leolam va'ed tishkon. Titgadal v'titgadash b'toch Yerushalayim ircha ledor vador ulenezach
netzach netzachim. Ve'enenu tirena malchutecha kadavar hamor b'shirei uzecha al yedei David Mashiach zikecha. Imloch Adonai leolam Elohai Zion ledor vador hallelujah ledor vador nagid kolecha ulenetzach netzachim kedushatcha nagdish v'shivchacha Eloheinu mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed ki hamelech gadol v'kadosh atah Baruch atah Adonai Hamelech HaKadosh. We continue silently. Please make sure to put in the insertions for these special 10 days of Teshuvah. Yizman Moshe.
לחיים טובים חומרים בריתך. We're on 165. Sefer Chaim, bracha v'shalom, ufarnasa tova, nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha, anachnu v'chol amcha, Beit Yisrael, lechaim tovim, Shalom lechaim tovim, oh leshalom
is on 167. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah, ve'almad yivra kirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayedechol beit Yisrael, b'agalau v'zman karev v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach, le'olam o'omei omaya, yitbarach. Yitbarak v'yishtabak v'yitpar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'imru amen titkabel toloton uvaton dechol Yisrael kodam uvahon v'ishmaya v'imru amen yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oh, say shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imeru, amen. Please stand for the Baruch Hu. We didn't have a minyan right at the moment, and now we do, so we can do this together. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's my pleasure to call on Heidi Penkava to lead us in the Torah service.
Hold on. Housekeeping here, sorry. Shabbat Shalom. Please join me. Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha malhutecha malchut kol amim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'ador Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Hav harachamim Heitiv avirtzoncha et Zion Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim Kiv lecha levad batachnu Melech Avram ben Isa Adon Olamim. Vayehi bin so Aharon Vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai Ve'afusu oivecha Ve'anusu misanecha mipanecha Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Ki mitzion tetzei Torah Udevar Adonai Mirushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Udevar Birushalayim. Sorry.
Master of the universe, I ask your blessings for our Kihulat Kiddusha, our sacred community, for those who will be called before the Torah for Aliyot, for all those who lead us in prayer and song this morning, and for all those who devotedly involve themselves for the needs of this community. Master of the universe, spread a shelter of peace over the holy land of Eretz Israel. Protect our land so that it can be a source of goodness and Torah for its inhabitants and for the entire world. Patach et libenu b'Toratecha. Open our hearts to your Torah. Inspire us to make Torah a part of our lives. Let us be touched by the words and melodies of our prayer, so that we may keep you in our minds and in our hearts now and always. Baruch atah sameach tefillah. Blessed One, hear our prayers, and let us say, Amen.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gadol Adonai iti, V'taromama Shemo Yachdav.
Lecha Adonai Hagedula, Zahagura, Hatiferet, Vehanetzach, Vehavod, Kikol Bashamayim,
Haaretz, Kikol Bashamayim.
Our Torah readings begin on page 1173, verses 1 through 3. V'yazor b'yegem v'yoshia l'chol ha'chosim bo v'nomar amen. Ha'kol ha'b'godel Eloheinu nu kavod la'Torah bat kohen kirvi ta'amod sibiyabat Batzara L'chaim lev bat kohen Baruch shenatan Torah li'amo Yisrael b'kedushato v'yatem hadbekim b'Adonai Elohechem hayim kolchem hayom.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamavarach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher bochar banu mikol cholamim, v'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Page 1173.
וילך משה וידבר את הדברים האלה אל כל ישראל, ויאמר עליהם בין 120 שנה אנוכי היום לא אוכל לצאת ולבוא, ואדוני אמר אלי לא תעבור העבר את הירדן הזה. אדוני אלוהיך הוא עובר לפניך, הוא ישמיד את הגויים האלה מלפניך, ורשת יהושע הוא עובר לפניך כאשר דיבר אדוני.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'hayei olam notah b'tohenu, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Our second reading is found in 1173, verses 4 to 6. Rabbi, you want me to do it?
I got it.
Good. Ta'amad serachavabat, but Abraham Shmuel, the Gittel, Halevi. There we go. Fitting.
Whoa. It starts with Vasa. Okay.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vasa Adonai lahem kasher asa lesichon ulaog malchei hamori uleartsam asher hishmid otam. Yeah, give me a Venatnem Adonai lifnechem va'asitem lahem lechol hamitzvah asher tziviti etchem chizku va'amru el ve'imtsu chizku ve'imtsu al tira'u va'al ta'artzo mipneihem ki Adonai Elohechem hu Elohecha hu haholech imcha imach lo yirpech and then lo yirpecha velo yaazvecha ka. Thank you.
That was a last-minute entry there. Thank you, Rabbi Teshkar.
I've got 3 of them. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah temet, v'chayei olam notah b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Our third aliyah is found on page 1174, verses 7 through 9. Are you doing the blessing too? Okay, I'm gonna get my tenses correct. Ta'amod na achuva bat Elisha v'Shoshana v'Umazel bat David Shlishi. We're on verse 7.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayikra Moshe Lihoshua Vayomer elav le'nei kol Israel hazak ve'emas ki ata tavo et ha'am hazeh el haaretz asher nishba Adonai la'avotam latet lahem ואתה תנחילנה אותם, ואדוני הוא ההולך לפניך, הוא יהיה עמך, לא ירפך ולא יעזבך, לא תירא ולא תחת. ויכתוב משה את התורה הזאת ויתנה אל הכהנים בני לוי הנושאים את ארון ברית אדוני ואל כל זקני ישראל.
Ashaka.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Our fourth reading is found on page 1174, verses 10 through 13. Ta'amod Shifrabat Yisrael v'Florence Leviit. Is it top?
That's right here. Israel's the last word from the last one.
Baruchu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Vayetzav Moshe otam lemor miket sheva shanim b'moed Shinad Hashmita B'chag HaSukkot Bavo Kol Yisrael Lirod Et Pnei Adonai Elohecha B'makom Asher Yivchar Tikra Et HaTorah Hazod Neged Kol Yisrael Be'oznehem Hakechal Et Ham Hanashim V'Hanashim V'Hatap V'Gerecha Asher B'Sherecha Leman Yishmeu Leman Yilmedu V'Yereu Et Adonai Elohechem V'Shameru Lasot Et Kol Divrei HaTorah Hazot Uvneihem asher lo yadu yishmeu v'lahamedu v'leyirah et Adonai Elohechem kol hayamim asher atem chayim al hadama Asher otam ovrim et kol et hayarden shama l'rishta.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
We now have an opportunity for a Misha Berach prayer for all those who are sick physically, struggling with mental illness or addiction. I'll start out the formula and then we'll be able to go around and include our loved ones' names. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech v'Yirapeh et.
Miriam bat Fega, Yaakov Shimon ben Chana, David ben Devorah, Gita Reza bat Malka, Naomi bat Maya, Abraham bat Rachel, Chana bat Goldi, Yehudi bat Eti Slova, Abraham ben Rachel, Shulamit bat Isabel, Rafi ben Abraham, Sarah bat Chaya, Zipporah bat Sarah, Shana bat Raski, Shusha Fega bat Lina, Moshe bat Rachel, Deborah bat Fredo, Chana Rachel bat Sarah, Sarah Zlata bat Chaya, Nechecha Zan, Yocheved Leah bat Rasha.
Hayu ben Yemina bat Miriam, Wendy Feinberg, Tiffany Esterol, Yaakov ben Ruth, Moshe ben Miriam, and Yehuda Arya ben Gobaz.
Rob?
Pat Frishman, Cole Howard, and Aaron Ben Raphael.
Norbert Kaufman, Paula Golden, Terry Golden, Ed Evans, Melinda Pencava.
Howard Richmond, Nana Shirley Kessler, Jen LaRue.
יהודית בת אהובה, אמיליה גמין, ליליה מזוק, אייזק מיירון בן הרן, איתן בן יהודית, ליה בת אהובה, טרודי אלגזר, עזיזה לישה, אורה בת רחל, חיה בת רחל, אברהם בן רחל, אליוד אלישה, רוג'ר אלישה, ג'ודי מרזוק, חיה בנימינה בת מרים, שרי קראס, גלאדיס בושן, סים קרישנסקי, קריסטן סוונסון, מורד and Elisha, Karen Feinberg, Joel Sloan, and Russ Myers.
Sherry?
Yehudi bat Sarah, Yehudi bat Naomi, Tamar bat Esther, Gladys Bushin, Sherry Krause, Sue Tuchansky, Aya Cohen, Ruben ben Rachel, Rachel bat Sarah, and those who are grieving today in memory of all those who were lost on September 11th.
Thank you, Sherry. Rabbi Joe?
Alicia Kova bat Sarah, Lina Mendel bat Leah Bassel, Leah Bassel bat Yash, Amy Deborah bat Yash, Eli Sheva bat Persia.
Barry?
Caroline Fisher, Martha Fisher.
Ronit bat Chaya, Miriam Harris.
All those mentioned, plus Deborah, Rishka bat Sarah, Amita Tova bat Lima, Lima bat Leonora, Chaya ben Yamina bat Miriam, Steve ben Esther Malka, Raphael ben Esther Malka, Edward Anderson, Jim Kahal, Sarah bat Chaya, Deborah bat Sarah, Yisrael Yaakov ben Chaya.
Gilon ben Sarah, Chana ben Yamin, Chana Tari bat Sarah, Robert Stormberg, Zipporah bat Shon Lesha, Harald Harald, Naomi ben Esther, Harald Raphael ben Esther, Roz Larks, Janice Burstein, Nancy Larson, Morty Johnson.
Chaya ben Yamina bat Yaakov, Shimon Miriam, Mika ben Lepa, Sor Yocheved bat Etzi, Sharon Ruth bat Chana v'Ze'ev. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimale Rachamim Alehem v'Yishlach Mehem Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuah HaNefesh Refuah HaGuf B'tok Sha'ar HaCholim V'chazek Et Yedei HaOzkim B'tzorcheihem Shabbat Hi Milizok Refuah Krova Lavo Hashta B'Galav V'Zman Kariv V'Nomar Amen El Na Refana La El Na Refana La El Na Refana La Refuah Shlema El Na Refana La El Na Refana La El Na Refana La Refuah Shlema.
The fifth Torah reading is found on page 1175, verses 14 through 19. Yamod, Abraham ben Teraya,
Hamishi.
Be'elia, Chamishi.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen.
Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Hein karvu yamecha lamut, Kra et Yehoshua, Yehoshua, V'yityatzvu ba'ohel moed v'atzavenu, Vayelech Moshe v'Yehoshua, V'yityatzvu ba'ohel moed, Vayar Adonai ba'ohel ba'amod anan, V'ya'amod amud ha'enan et petach ha'ohel, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe, Hincha shochev im avotecha, Vekom ha'am hazeh, V'zana acharei Elohei nechar ha'aretz, Asher hu ba'shama b'kirbo, Azavani, V'hefer et briti, Asher karati ito, V'charaf api bo bayom hahu, V'azavtim, V'histarti panai mehem, V'haya lechol, Umatsa'uhu, Ra'ot rabot v'yitzarot, V'amar bayom hahu, Halo al, Ki ein Elohai b'kirbi, Mitza'uni hara'ot ha'ele, is that ha'ele, V'anochi astir, Penei bayom hahu, Al kol ha'ra'a asher asa, Ki pana el Elohim acherim, Ve'ata kitvu lachem et hashira hazot, Ve'lamda et bnei Yisrael, Shima mipnehem, Le'ma'an tiyeli hashira hazot, Le'ed bivnei Yisrael.
Yeshua.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Our sixth Torah reading is found on page 1177, verses 20 through 24. Ya'amod Yaakov Dov ben Moshe v'Sarah Shishi.
I want to just apologize to the congregation. I missed my Torah reading this morning. They had the front door locked, and the security guard didn't show up for about 20 minutes. So I sincerely apologize. Baruch hu et Adonai Baruch. Baruch Adonai Baruch li'olam va'ed. Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim benatan lanu et toroto. Baruch ato Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ki avienu el adama asher nishbati lavotav zavat chalav udavash ve'achal v'safa v'dashen ufana el Elohim acherim va'avadum v'niyatsuni v'hefer et briti v'haya ki timsena oto ra'ot rabot v'tzarot v'antaha shira hazot lefanav le'ed ki lo tishkach mipi zaro ki yadati et yitzro Asher hu asa hayom b'terem avienu el haaretz asher nishbati vayichtov Moshe et hashira hazot bayom hahu vayilamdah et bnei Yisrael vayitzav et Yehoshua binun vayomer chazak be'ematz ki ata tavi et bnei Yisrael el haaretz asher nishbati lahem v'anochi eye ima'ach Vayhi kichlot Moshe lichtov et divrei haTorah hazot al sefer ad tumam.
Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech olam asher natan lanu Torah emet
וחיי עולם נוטה בתוכנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
Our seventh Torah reading is found on page 1178, verse 25. Ya'amdu Chaya bat Devorah v'Reuven v'Katriel ben Avraham v'Sarah Shivim.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayitzav Moshe et Haleviim nosei Aaron brit Adonai lemor lakoach et sefer haTorah hazeh v'samtem oto mitzad Aaron brit Adonai Elohechem v'haya sham becha le'ed ki anochi yadati et meriecha v'et orpecha hakashe hein ba'odeni chai imachem hayom mamrim hitem im Adonai ve'af ki acharei moti'i Hakilu Elai et kol ziknei shiftechem v'shotrechem v'adabra ba'oznehem et hadavarim ha'eleh v'yidat bam et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz ki yadati acharei moti ki hashchet tashchitun v'sartem min haderech asher tziveti etchem v'karata etchem hara'a ba'acharit hayamim ki ta'asu et hara be'enei Adonai lahach iso b'ma'aseh yedechem Vayedaber Moshe ba'oznei kol kahal Yisrael et divrei hashira hazot ad tumam.
Yes, cool. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natav betochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Please stand, and I just want to say how blessed we are to have such wonderful Torah readers in our community. Rabbi Kavod, Barry Cohen, Albert Gazar, and Noam Arts, and we're so blessed that you're all with us. Please stand.
Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rava v'yomad yivachurutei v'lamich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'yimeru Amen Yehi shmei Rava mevorach le'olam u'le'olmei olmaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yapawar v'yitram v'yitnaseh v'yitada'ar v'yitala'eh v'yitalal Shemei dekudesha Brichu li'ela mikol birchata v'shirata Tushbechata v'nechemata Da'amihiran be'alma v'yimeru Amen.
Our Maftir Torah reading is found on page 1178, verse 28.
Talmud, Chaya Binyamin bat Yaakov Shimon Miriam Hamaftira.
I'm going to step back. I'm going to take my mask off. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Hakilu Elai et kol zignei shiftechem v'shotrechem v'adabra ba'oznehem et hadavrim ha'eleh v'ayida bam et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz Ki yadati acharei moti ki hashchet tashchitun v'sartem min haderech asher tziveti etchem v'karata etchem hara'a ba'acharit hayamim ki ta'asu et hara be'enei Adonai lahach iso b'ma'aseh yedechem v'yedaber Moshe ba'oznei kol kahal Yisrael et divrei hashira hazot ad tumam. Bracha. Wendy, bracha. Bracha.
Oh, sorry. A lot of business, I'm sorry. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. With those honored with lifting and dressing the Sefer Torah, please come up to the bima now. I think he's already here. Do we have someone who's dressing? Who's lifting? Who's dressing?
I'm lifting, I guess.
Ya'amdu Hagmavia Veha. Who's dressing? Golel. Please stand. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe.
You may be seated. So just real quickly, we're about to read this special Haftarah for Shabbat Shuvah. And usually the Haftarah is made, this particular one is made from 3 prophetic passages. And Isaiah, Joel, and Micah. And we're only going to be doing 2. We're not going to be doing the one from Joel just as our effort to keep our services a little bit shorter these days. But and the one from Joel is really about the ways that people would take ritual purifications when the temple existed as a way to do teshuvah. But the other readings that you'll see that we're going to be doing, I think, will be more relevant to us of really about our behavior, how we come back to God through how we treat each other.
So before I begin, I want to just say that I would like to dedicate this Haftarah to 2 lovely women whose birthdays were yesterday. They're secular birthdays. My grandmother, Fanny Orchel, and our dear friend, P. Wall. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza b'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'v'Moshe abdo u'v'Yisrael amo u'v'nviei ha'emet v'tzedek. 12:35. Shuvu Yisrael ad Adonai Elohecha ki chashalta ba'avonecha kihu imachem devarim v'shuvu el Adonai imru elav kol tisa avon v'kach tov unshalma parim sifatenu Ashor lo yoshienu al sus lo nirkav v'lo nomar aod Eloheinu l'maaseh yadeinu asher b'cha yerucham yatom Erpa mishuvatam ohavem nidava ki shavapi mimenu echiyeh chaltal Yisrael yifra kashoshana v'yak shirashav kalvanon ילכו יום כותב ויהי חזית הודו וריח לו קלבנון ישובו יושבי בצילו יחיו דגן ויפרחו הגפן זכרו כי יין לבנון אפרים עליו לעצבים אני טיב אשורנו אני כבראש רענן ממני פרייך נמצא מי חכם ויבן אליו נבון וידעתם כי ישרים דרכי אדוני בצדיקים ילכו בה ופשעים ייכשלו בה. Page 1239. מי אל כמוך נושא עוון ועובר על פשע לשארית נעלתו לחזיק לעד אפו כי חפץ חסד הוא ישוב ירחמנו יכבוש אבותינו ותשליק במסולות ים כל חטאותם תיתן אמת ליעקב חסד לאברהם אשר נשבעת לאבותינו מימי קדם. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם צור כל העולמים צדיק בכל הדורות האל הנאמן האומר ויעשה המדבר ומקיים שכל דבריו אמת וצדק נאמן אתה הוא אדוני אלוהינו ונאמנים דבריך ודבר אחד מדבריך אחור לא ישוב ריקם כי המלך נאמן ורחמן אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הנאמן בכל דבריו רחם על ציון כי בית חיינו ולעלוב הנפש תושיע במהרה בימינו ברוך אתה אדוני משמח ציון בבניה שמחנו אדוני אלוהינו באליהו הנביא עבדך ובמלכות בית דוד משיחך במהרה יבוא ויגר ליבנו על כיסו לא ישב זר ולא ינחלו עוד אחרים את כבודו כי בשם קודשך נשבעת לו שלא יכפה נרו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מגן דוד על התורה ועל העבודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה לכבוד ולתפארת על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לך ומברכים אותך יתברך שמך בפי כל חי תמיד לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
It's where this is.
Rabbi Asher or no Asher?
Here we go.
Our service continues with Ashrei, page 181. We're going to do Let's do the first one. 181. Thank you, come in place. Get out of your way.
No, come back. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Od Yahalelucha Selah. Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha Od Yahalelucha Od Yahalelucha Selah. Tehillat Adonai Yedaber Pi, Vivarech Kol Basar, Shem Kodsho Leolam Va'ed, Va'anachnu V'acha, Mi'ata Ve'ad Olam, Hallelujah.
We stand, page 183.
Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, Ki nesav Shemo Yevado.
Odo al eretz v'shamayim, v'yalaven kerem ve'alo, v'ilalecho v'atidav, v'nam Yisrael v'yamterodo. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Mizmor leDavid, Havul Adonai Elim, Havul Adonai, Kavod Ba'oz, Havul Adonai Kevon Shemo, Havul Adonai B'Chad Kodesh, Kol Adonai Al Hamayim, El HaKavod Irim, Adonai Al Maim Rabim, Kol Adonai Ba'koach Lai Lai Lai, Kol Adonai Behadar, Kol Adonai Shover Arazim, Vayishaber Adonai et Arzei Havanon, Vayar Kidei Kimo Egel Levanon, Vesirion Kimo Ben Re'emim Lai Lai Lai, Kol Adonai Hotzev Labodesh, Kol Adonai Yachil Midbar, Yachil Adonai Midbar Kadesh, Kol Adonai Yechol El Ayalot, Vayechesov Ye'arot Uvechalo Kulo Omer Kavod Lai Adonai Lamabu Yashava Yeshev Adonai Melech Leolam, Adonai Oz Le'amoiten, Adonai Yivarech et Amo V'Shalom. 184. Don't close the doors yet. Unocho Yomar.
Nucho Yomar. Ki lekachto natati lachem Torati al tazovu etzvayi lamachazikim ba v'tom
ונשובה חדש ימינו
Shabbat shalom.
Let's see if this is going to... So the Zohar uses this, a nursing image to describe our relationship with God. And it says in the Zohar, more than the cow wants to give milk, the calf wants to suck. No, more than the calf wants to suck, the cow wants to give milk. Which is this sense that I only know intellectually, but all the mothers here know firsthand, that when the baby is hungry and there is that yearning, automatically that milk, biologically, the changes start happening and the milk starts letting down and getting ready for that feeding. And Rabbi Zalman Schachter Shalomi talks about that Shabbat Mevarchim, or the Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh, every Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh, we bless the new month for the month coming up. And what he says is that Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh is like the milk coming down. Like it's getting ready, it's getting full. We are clarifying our own intention for what are the blessings that we want to have come down in that month. And they get ready so that then when Rosh Chodesh happens, that whether that's through singing Hallel, if we're observing that traditionally, and songs of praise, or whether we're feeling the new month coming in, the idea is that there's intention. And specifically, Rosh Chodesh is also, another name for it is Yom Kippur Katan. That Rosh Chodesh, that really the beginning of every month, is specifically a time of teshuvah. It's a time to be able to say, I want to draw close. What do I want to draw close to in my life? What are the divine qualities that I want to bring in? And so it's that moment of Rosh Chodesh is that moment of teshuvah. But the idea is that if we want that to be an experience of nourishment of Rosh Chodesh, we've got to have the Shabbat Mevarchim the week before. We've got to bless the month and get ready for what are we trying to return towards. So the same way, this Shabbat Shuvah is likened to the milk coming down for Yom Kippur. It's funny to say it that way, because we're going to be pretty thirsty on Yom Kippur. But it's a different kind, a different kind of nourishment. And so the question really becomes, okay, if part of the defining, what is the sacred service that we are doing on Yom Kippur? And then how does Shabbat Shuvah help us get ready for that? And one might say that kind of the core image of Yom Kippur that we have both in the Torah reading and in the Avodah service is the high priest entering the Holy of Holies, being able to bring and open to God's compassion for himself and for all of the people. And so there is this incredible moment of tshuva that the priest is bringing towards, but what that is about is it's an immersion in God's compassion, an immersion in that place that says, I understand in the deepest way why you have made the choices that you've made, why you are the way you are, and I love you for it anyway, and you can step forward from that. So the question then is, how do we prepare for that moment? And really our whole High Holy Day season obviously has been that kind of preparation. But today has a special, being Shabbat Shuvah, it's worth reflecting on what is Shuvah. And as many of us are familiar with, Moses Maimonides, the Rambam, has a classic formulation of Teshuvah. It got even echoed a little bit in the prophet Hosea's reading that Wendy did this morning, which is that there's 3 steps. First, that a sinner should abandon their sins and remove them from their thoughts, resolving in their heart not to ever do it again. Right? So the first step is, I'm just going to stop doing whatever behavior I'm doing that's not so healthy. And I'm going to just resolve that I'm not going to do it again. So if that was the only process of tshuva, we didn't have 3, what could happen? We could say, okay, in this moment, I'm going to stop. I'm going to resolve, I'm not going to do this, and we've all had those moments. But then what about the next moment? What about when we find ourselves with that familiar pull or yearning or anger or whatever it is that drives us off course? When that piece comes again, we're not necessarily, number one, that first step didn't necessarily prevent or inoculate us against that. So then it comes to step number 2. Similarly, he must regret the past. Okay, so there's a piece in number 2 that says, in order for me to regret the past, to regret what I did, I have to have some awareness about how what I did affected me or other people. I have to see it clearly. If I don't see it clearly, if I don't really, and this is what the Rambam, Maimonides, is all about. He's about clear perception. I have to perceive my reality and the reality of others as it is, not as the way I'd like it to be, not as the way that I rationalize it in order for me to do what I want to do, but to really see it as it is. And then, once I take a look at those consequences, I have the 3rd step, which is that I must verbally confess and state these matters which I resolved in my heart. Right? If it has to do with another person, I have to share with them. Not only am I sorry, not only do I see and experience the consequences of what I did to you or somebody else, and not only am I not going to do that, but how can I fix it? What can I do to repair our relationship? I say it verbally. And of course, when it comes to sins between myself and the Kadosh Baruch Hu, there is that moment of being able to somehow verbalize what it is what I see and what I'm aware of, and we do that on Yom Kippur, and we do that together as a community. What's interesting, though, is that if we go ahead and do that verbalization with another person or with God on Yom Kippur, and we haven't truly looked into what are the consequences of it, if I didn't really regret my past, resolve not to do it again, then it's, as the sages say, it's like taking a sheretz, an unclean creature like a lizard or a spider, or a iguana or whatever it is with you, and taking it with you into a mikveh. Right? So the idea is like, a mikveh is this really purifying space, right? I'm here in the chapel on Yom Kippur, and I'm praying, and I'm being very holy, and I'm saying what I think I should say, or I'm saying, I know that I did this stuff that wasn't so good, and I'm going to say, God, I'm not going to do it again. But somehow there's a part of me inside that hasn't truly decided that I'm not going to do it again. There's still a part of me inside that wants to do it. It's like taking that unclean animal and bringing it into the mikveh with me. So all of this process of tshuva, it's not performative, it's real. And so I think the piece that I want us to get to explore a little bit is, how do we really do, especially step number 2, that regretting of the past, or that really looking very clearly and understanding what it is, why we've done what we've done, and what our interest is in it. And this is where I know I've shared this many times before, but I feel like when we come around this season, it's important again. There's an incredible teaching, very powerful teaching by Rabbi Eliyahu Dessler, both a Musar and Hasidic master of the 20th century, which he teaches is that all of us have this special moment of choice. He calls it the nikuda bechira, the choice point, or the bechira point. And that moment of choice is when the power of truth and the power of falsehood is equal in us. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. The reason why we sin, why we do things, whatever that is, whether it's yelling at another person and letting them have it, or holding off and holding a grudge against somebody, or pursuing our own desires at the expense of other people, whatever those things are, it's because in some way we believe that that fulfillment of that desire is going to truly meet what our need is. So, if I am, if I know that eating certain things are not healthy for me, and I continue to eat them, even though I know it's not healthy for me, the power of truth. I know that, let's just say I'm a diabetic, and it has to do with, it's even not just about weight or overall health, but that I could really be critically in the hospital. And yet, there's still a belief that if I have this thing, I will be happy. I will have an escape from my stress. I will have whatever it is. There is that power of falsehood that is very alive in me. Even though I know intellectually it won't do that, even though I might know intellectually I'm fulfilling an emotional need here, I don't actually need this, there still is a part of me that believes that it will. And that's the part I want us to really consider. If we're having trouble making changes in our life, and no matter, I want to, and it feels like, well, I just can't make the change. My invitation to us is to consider, no, it's not that you can't make the change, it's that you won't make the change. Because there's still a part of you that believes that doing what you've always done is going to fulfill that need. And until you can look at that straight in the face and be able to see, that change is not going to happen. So he says that the choice point is when the power of truth is equal to the power of falsehood in me. So that's that moment where I look and I really see, wow, I get how this choice, this action affects me or affects other people. This is not good. I'm seeing it. I'm taking it in. And I can also feel like there's also another voice in me that's saying, yes, but it'll feel so good, or that person really deserves it, or whatever it is. When those voices are equal, that's the Bechira point. We don't always have the Bechira point, right? Sometimes it's easy to make choices. Sometimes we might feel a desire for something, and the power of truth is much stronger in us, and it's not a big deal. We just say, nope, I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to hold that against somebody. It's easy, right? And sometimes there's the time when the power of falsehood is stronger in us, and we're just repeating old patterns. But when it's equal, that's the powerful moment. That's the moment where we hear mitzvah goreret mitzvah, avera goreret avera. One mitzvah leads to another, one sin leads to another. It's at that moment of choice when, if we decide to make a decision on the power of truth, we affirm the reality of the truth over the falsehood in our mind. And we strengthen that like a groove, like cutting a groove with our action. If at that moment of choice point of falsehood, we go ahead and act in a way that's the old habit, and we've seen it both ways. It's equal in us. It's completely, we know what's true. We feel the other power, the power of the darkness in us too, but we make the choice on the falsehood. We create that groove, and we strengthen that reality in our mind. So that's this moment of these 10 days of teshuvah that we're in, is whatever each individual Bechira point is for each one of us, and we all have it's all different, right? We all are made up different. There's the certain things that we're right at. This 10 days is that time to choose life, to choose health, to choose to go towards what is true. And that's that number 2 piece that really allows the full process to be one that has integrity. Any thoughts about this, about these 3 processes, about what gets hard for you? What do you find that is success in your own tshuva process? How does any of this hit you? Steve and then Heidi.
So thank you for teaching us a little bit of Rav Eliyahu. And I've been a student of his for many, many years now. And the Bechira point is definitely something that resonates with me. And just being aware of this, because I think a lot of us aren't aware of the process. And so actually one of the things that I'm going to be teaching on Yom Kippur afternoon is from Rabbi Yonah of Gorani, and it's a book published back in 1500, but he lived in about 1200, dissecting out the various components of the four gates as he would have it of tshuva, and basically understanding what are the principles, what are the things that would cause me to want to do this, what are the things that would make it difficult for me to do that, and really dissecting it, because I think there's so many different ways we can be confronted with the opportunity to do tshuva and at the same time not do it. And so I think, Rabbi Eliyahu here is really talking about that very critical point, that at least understanding that we know maybe it's not there, and as you said, it's like the dark side is strong with this one, that you have an opportunity to not go in that way, and it's pretty obvious, but being aware of that tipping point, as it were, is very helpful.
So 2 o'clock on Yom Kippur afternoon, you can learn a little Sha'arei Teshuvah, the gates of Teshuvah with Steve.
Thank you. I was going to say that that's a big visual for me, the choice point, the one we would rather do and the one maybe that we're used to doing, that path, the one that we're used to doing that we'd rather not is easy, no weeds, no, just really nice to walk down. The other one might have some weeds, might have some rocks, might have some bumps, but the more we walk down the one we want to go to, it's like a habit. We have to keep going down that path that we want to go down, and that will tramp down the weeds, will knock down the rocks, will scoot them away, and then that path will be the path that's easier and the habitual path.
Beautiful, beautiful. And Heidi's imagery too. Maybe somebody can remind me which prophet it is, but clear away, break down the, put the rocks aside, trample the there's that same imagery. I'm not remembering who it is, but thank you. And Heidi, what I'll say too is to just add to that is the Rav Dessler has this image of where the battle is fought. Like if you look at 2 armies on one side, the Bechira point is that point where the armies of truth and falsehood. And what we constantly do is we're trying to push that point more towards back towards the other side, so that there's not the more that we go ahead and make that choice of truth on whatever it is, it gets a little easier to do it next time, and a little easier until finally it's just that groove and it's not an issue anymore. But it's all going to happen right, the work is going to happen right at that moment. Yeah. Rabbi Joe.
And I think you brought up the point that the Bechira point is not a point. Because if it were, you could make that choice when everything's equal and then move on. It's a process. And it reminds me of an old Indian story of the child asking his father, why do I feel so uneven? Because a lot of this is emotion that's causing you to do things. When you're hurt, there's the imbalance. And you have to almost be at peace with yourself to be able to be at that Bechira point. So, you're only there for a second or a split second, and then you're in imbalance again unless you can hold the balance. So the child's asking his father, what's going on here? And the father's saying, you have two animals inside you. You have the wolf and you have the lion, and the wolf is trying to destroy and the lion is trying to heal. And he says, which one's going to win the struggle? And he says, the one you feed. And it's so I think what we're dealing with here, when you say the Bechira point, and what I've read from this is that it's not truly a point in time, but rather it's part of the process, that it's the beginning point of the process that you're going to work with from there. And it's bottom line, it's not an easy fix.
Last comment.
What everybody said really resonates, especially Rabbi, that really resonates with something I've always struggled with, and I keep saying, oh, I'm going to do a little better, I'm doing a little better, I'm doing a little better, but I'm not quite there yet. And what I struggle with in that Bechira point is that the situation, the thing I want to change is always the same, but the situation is different. So I have to stop and go, is this a time when I need to do this? Not that. If the situation is different, it's just so easy to go back to your old ways instead of realizing that this is one of those things where I shouldn't do this, I should do that. So, sorry, I keep moving the mic, but yeah, that's the struggle for me, realizing that the situations are even though it's a different situation, try and do the same thing, so.
Right, and somehow what Sandy's saying about that the challenge is sometimes when the situations are different, but you kind of are bringing the same habits or patterns to those situations, is to be able to recognize, well, what comes up for me that gets applied throughout all those different times. Thank you for that reflection, everybody. I hope that this year becomes gives us a little bit more chizuk, a little bit more strength with being able to make those decisions at our Bechira point, to recognize, as Rabbi Joe said, it is a process, and we don't just make the decision once, but have to make it many, many times.
One thing it's all the time, you say such great things on Shabbat, and everybody gives us things, and I always say, why can't I remember this or write this down? Now that we're live streaming, I can go back and listen again.
You can, and exactly. Okay, so we will conclude this part of the service and also our learning together with Kaddish de Rabbanan on page 111, and then move straight from there into the Musaf service, which will be on page 185. Okay, so first 111. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'yalmad divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayei uvyomei uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam olmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'rechu Le'ela, le'ela, mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Al Yisrael ve'al Rabbanan ve'al Talmidehon ve'al kol Talmidehon ve'al kol ma'an daskin b'oraita di ba'atra hadain v'di b'chol atar ve'atar. Yehe lahon ulchon shlama rabba china v'chista v'rachamin v'chayin arechin umzona revicha umforkana min kodam avohon divishmaya v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim tovim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu berachamav ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'el kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Page 185. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Hakol v'Zocher Chasdei Avot ומביא גואל לפני בניהם למען שמו באהבה. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומיתו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, מי כמוך אב הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. נעריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה וקרא זה אל זה וקרא זה אל זה וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו כבודו מלא עולם, כבודו מלא עולם, כבודו מלא עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה לזה, איי 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 מקום כבודו, איי 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 מקום כבודו. ברוך למותם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים, ויחון עם יחדים שמו, ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. הוא אבינו, הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית, לעיני כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. Lidor vador, lidor vador, lidor vador, nagid kolecha, ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nagdish, veshivchacha Eloheinu, mipinu lo yamush leolam va'ed, Ki el melech gadol, ki el melech gadol, v'kadosh ata, ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador, nagid kolecha, ulenetzach netzachim, ulenetzach netzachim, kedushatcha nagdish. Ki el melech gadol v'kadosh ata, baruch ata Adonai, hamelech hakadosh. You can continue the rest of the Amidah silently, making sure to put in the additions and the changes for Shabbat Shuvah. Shalom bimroma uyase. Shalom ose shalom bimroma uyase. Shalom aleinu ve'okol Yisrael ve'okol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Aleinu ve'okol Yisrael ve'okol yoshvei tevel ve'imeru amen. Page 203. Yitkada v'yitkada shemei Rabbah ve'almad divra kirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayei tuchol beit Yisrael b'galau v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'omei omaya yitbarach יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה ברכו לעילה לעילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בימה ואמרו אמן תתקבל צלות הון ובהון דכל ישראל כל דם עוון דבישמיא ואמרו אמן יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיא וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו amen. Alenu's on page 205. We'll come back afterwards to In Kelohenu. Please stand. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומשה וקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו בגבהי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו ככתוב בתורתו וידעת היום השבותה אל לבבך כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד הכתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. In our temple family, we're recalling loved ones to whom death has recently taken from us. Laura Spiegel Sommerfeld, the mother of our member Janet Lauren, Frances Feldman, the mother of our member Debbie Motenko, Michael Kitai, father of our member Eric Kitai, Michael Gubner, father of our member Adam Gubner. We're also keeping to mind all of those who perished in 9/11 and aware that if it wasn't somebody that we had a personal connection with, which I know some of us do, that we're saying Kaddish for in memory of all of the connections that families have had with people who they lost. We're also commemorating the following yard sites: Taylor Bonnell, Simon Byers, Alvin Chester, Beverly Davis, William Disman, Vita Alicia, Esther Flyer, Jacob Frank, Harry Gertz, Mary Glass, Sidney Goldschmidt, Joanne Grumet, Lillian Gutell, Sheila Hartenstein, Sylvia Hillman, Dorothy Hirsch, Nancy Hundert, Ada Carver, David Robert Kaufman, Harry Keith, Jacob Klein, Mitchell Lane, Esther Levy, Beatrice Lewiston, Shal Orlo Soroff, Rita Morov, Perlman, Scott Pearson, Paula Pizzanti, Aaron Richard Seligson, Maurice Simon, Sydney Sokol, Betty Stahl, Jeffrey Steinberg, Rose Steinberg, Barbara Strauss, Theodore Tessel, Alice Warshaw, Dennis Weiss, Mildred Wilner. I'm also saying Kaddish for my father, Leland Weeder. I know Evan is for B. Wool, and all those who perished in the Shoah.
My cousin Jeffrey Chernoff, who perished in the World Trade Center, and my grandfather who died on Yom Kippur, Seymour Chow.
Thank you. Anybody else we're saying Kaddish for? And if you're tuning in with us remotely too, we're all saying Kaddish together. You can stand or sit according to your custom. Page 207. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah v'alma divrach yerute v'yamlich malchute b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe shmei rabbah mevorach leolam olmei olmaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'richu Le'ela, le'ela, min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rab amin shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be for a blessing. I also just want to, first of all, just thank Wendy for opening up our service and Gabbying and all of our Torah readers. It's been a really beautiful morning, all of you who showed up. And a real thank you to all who are tuning in remotely, staying connected with community. I know that this isn't the same as Zoom, where we could see each other and talk with each other, and we're going to be talking about that after the High Holy Days to find different alternatives. What I do want to make sure to alert you to and everybody here is that on Yom Kippur afternoon there will be a number of different Zoom options. Just like on Rosh Hashanah, after I give my sermon on Yom Kippur Day, you'll have a link that you can click on to tune into Zoom and be able to have discussion over the sermon online there. So please make sure to know that that is happening, and that's ways that you can connect. Let's see. It's not on Rob's announcements here, so I'll say a little bit more. Just also, Steve Birch, as he mentioned earlier, is going to be giving a learning at 2 o'clock on Zoom, and so that's going to be something that's virtual that you can tune in. And then there'll be some pre-recorded options to hear Yonah in Hebrew, to hear Cantor Sue daven mincha in the afternoon. Those are all pre-recorded online. And then at 4:30, there'll be a discussion with Cantor Shula around the book of Yonah. So, and if you're going to tune in to the Reform Ne'ilah, that will also be online in, I don't know if that will be, I don't think that will be a Zoom format. I think that'll just be streamed. But, okay. Rob?
Is this service the same format like the orders later in
Well, we don't have a shofar service, but yes, it's going to be similar to that format, yeah.
Well, thank you. Rabbi, thank you, and everybody else who participated and led us in our worshiping this morning. A couple things. First off, tomorrow at 5 p.m. at Dana Point Harbor, we'll have Tashlik services, and that's going to be on the pier that's towards where the Pilgrim usually is. I don't even know if it's still there. But I understand one of the really neat things is going to be is this is going to be an ice cream truck. Am I correct? So if that's not an incentive, I don't know what is. On Tuesday, we will have our Marty Stein Refuah Nefesh healing service online at 6:30 p.m. And then, of course, we have Erev Yom Kippur Kol Nidre service on Wednesday. Our conservative service starts at 6 p.m. and the Reform service starts at 7:30. Let's see what else we have. The food drive. So hopefully if you haven't picked up a bag, there's one outside in the foyer. If not, feel free to bring your own. And just bring, if I'm not mistaken, the collection point is usually in the front of the building, maybe even right near the collection boxes that we have right now. But you'll probably see something happening there as well. Lulav and Etrog. Order your very own Lulav and Etrog through Tuesday, September 14th, which is just right around the corner. You can go to the website and click on Sukkot and Simchat Torah Square to order. You'll also find information on all the services as well, because Sukkot is right around the corner. Capture everything, I think? Again, thank you very much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, but it's not the same. The sukkah is going to be up on the balcony, the Mirpeset right off the banquet hall. There's already a structure on the top, and so they'll make some walls and put the skach on the top there, so it won't be the full project. but it has a nice view of Saddleback Mountain and should be lovely. And we'll have plenty of Sukkot programming going on. All right, we will conclude our service with Ein Kelohenu, and we're going to go back to, we haven't done the Ladino version in a long time, and this you need to, this is on page 204 in the sidebar on the left. Some of you, like me, might need your glasses. It's really small print. Ein Kelohenu, Ein Kadonenu, Ein Kemalkenu, Ein Kemoshienu, non como nuestro Dios, non como nuestro Señor, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. Mi Kelohenu, mi Kadonenu, mi Kemalkenu, mi Kemoshienu, quien como nuestro Dios, quien como nuestro Señor, quien como nuestro Rey, quien como nuestro Salvador. No del Elohenu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu. Lo haremos nuestro Dios, lo haremos nuestro Señor, lo haremos nuestro Rey, lo haremos nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu. Bendicho nuestro Dios, bendicho nuestro Señor, bendicho nuestro Rey, bendicho nuestro Salvador. Atahu Eloheinu, Atahu Adonenu, Atahu Malkeinu, Atahu Moshienu. Tu el nuestro Dios, tu el nuestro Señor, tu el nuestro Rey, tu el nuestro Salvador. Atahu shektiru avotenu lefanecha ketoret hasamim. Yalla la 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 la, yalla la 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 la, yalla na 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 na, yalla na 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 na.
After Rabbi makes kiddush, we will have our kiddush outside, and we will have our tigoneg as well.
Ooh. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beni uvein v'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam, oti leolam. Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et haaret veshamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vaynafash, shavat vaynafash, shavat vaynafash, veshamru v'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Al ken berach Adonai et yom hashabat bikadshehu savri. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pari hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
I just want to turn it this way so everybody at home can see these beautiful challah. Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
If you'll collect up the seat placards, that would be helpful. Cold, I didn't bring a sweater because it's high outside.
See you. Where's your next where's your next journey off to?
We're leaving on the 21st, so we come Tuesday, and we're on our first, well, we're going to the Grand Canyon on the way, but we're going to the Albuquerque Balloon Festival.
Albuquerque.
Balloon
Oh,
Festival.
the Balloon Festival. Oh, yeah.
Hi! How are you? Shabbat shalom. Oh, I'm gonna get back to you. Were your ears burning yesterday? We were visiting with Marion and Fred Geller. Oh my God! I'm like, is there a Mashiach here? Oh, they love you. Aren't they sweet? Aren't they sweet? Anyway, they're so happy that you're there. Anyway, yeah, look how good you look. You look so handsome. Yeah. Good for you. Good for you. Anyway, the Albuquerque Balloon Festival. I don't know if you've ever, maybe it's not on your radar. I'm not exactly sure what to expect. I think it's like many balloons. Yes. Yeah. So we're sort of on a tour, like, we paid a company to get us a site, an RV site, and then they give us the tickets, and it's a whole thing. So, anyway, so that's our first destination, and Richard's like, we're planning this, and then he's like, well, we're that far, we might as well go east. So, we're planning to be gone until the beginning of December. And we're going through states, like we're going to visit a niece in Oklahoma, and then we're going to like Kansas and Kentucky and West Virginia, and and then Virginia will be there for a while because Rich has two sisters. They first in the north and Virginia in the south, and then we'll make our way to Eagle
take these back to the